What's up, everybody? This is Rastafunk. Rastafunk's Internalize every Friday and Saturday and Sunday at 8 p.m. We come out and give you some of the internalized series from our Facebook page. And last night we did internalize the funk inspector. So we talked a little bit about funk and talked a little bit about its inception. But basically, the subject matter was Sly Stone. He was, in my opinion, the greatest funketeer because he widened funk up for all the funkers to have a place to funk. And, we had a robust discussion. We had Brother Mike P on, the Funk God, to talk a little bit about it. We had Brother Heru, um, the new African Imhotep. He came in and asked Mike some questions, so we could further get an understanding of the funk. And that was our Friday night's Rastafunk Internalized. We had a really nice discussion. The funk inspector, we will make that a regular series, and I'm not sure if we'll do it on Fridays, Saturdays, or Sundays. We'll surprise you. But once a weekend, we'll take time out to inspect some funk, and we'll highlight a funketeer, whether it be from the past or whether it be someone that's doing funk right now that we need to know about. So stay tuned for the Roster Funk's Internalized, the Funk Inspector. It'll be one of our regular things, and as we grow and as we move forward, that's how we gonna make it. So what I'll do is set up my. I need to check out and make sure that I'm live everywhere I'm supposed to be live. Um, we are normally on YouTube, Facebook, and X, and who knows if everything works out within the next week or so, we'll be on a BB Toomey. And once we get on a BB Toomey, we will probably just be on a BB Toomey and X. Mostly because what happens is when you start to really get into real conversation, there are some tight booty people that stop you from having that conversation, however they do it. And in doing so, what happens is um, they're trying to control the narrative. And a free people don't allow the narrative to be controlled. A free people don't really criticize that because they create their own. Criticize by creating. That's how you show something is messed up. Um, that's a term that I learned from a sister, Majette Wade. I'm not sure if it's Majette or Maget Wade, uh, but we'll discuss her one day in one of the Rastafunk Internalized. Because if you ain't black, if you don't know Maget Wade, yeah, we got a You Ain't Black series along with the Funk Inspector series. And those particular series will be reoccurring. You Ain't Black, we may not do every weekend, but we'll definitely incorporate the Funk Inspector into every weekend. So, just continue to follow us as we grow. We're still letting a couple of people trickle in before we get started with tonight. Tonight is Rastafunk's Internalized. The subject is edumacation. So, once we get a couple more people in, we'll make this thing happen for everybody in a real way. We'll start the discussion. If you're interested, oh my bad, I'm sorry, everybody. I thought I was doing what I wanted to do, but it's not allowing me. Uh, Excuse me, real quick. Boom and boom. Yeah. All right. So we know that's right. I'll check my Facebook in a second. My phone needed to restart, so we gonna let that happen. I hope everybody's doing well. Today was a beautiful day for me. We're having the Malcolm X Fest here in Atlanta, and so I spend a little time over there. Typically, we play at the Malcolm X Fest. I believe we'll start back playing next year. I had a couple of things I needed to take care of this year. I basically my son's graduation was today, so I was tied up doing some family things. But once I wrapped that up, I did stop by the festival to check it out. If you're in Atlanta, the festival is for the weekend, so it'll be. I think they're probably ending for the evening today, but tomorrow they'll be started around 12 and go till about 7 or 8. And it's always a blast. It's always a blast to honor Malcolm X and to see the Africans out there enjoying themselves, see the African kids. It's always a couple of schools that come through and the kids show out, show some of the things they learn, some drumming, some marching, um, some anthems that they remember and some sayings that they can recall. And it's a beautiful time. They have bands and that play, and the vendors are ridiculous. The vendors are like, if you're looking for some African clothes or some African art, some books, that is the place. Yes, the Malcolm X Fest. So, we stopped through. We may even stop through again tomorrow and just, check them out, because it's the Malcolm X Fest. What else you doing in Atlanta if you black and you're not going to the Malcolm X Fest? Matter of fact, you ain't black in Atlanta if you don't go check out the Malcolm X Fest. How about that? So, I think we've given people a little time. We'll get started with tonight's show. Rastafunk's Internalized. We're here every Friday, every Saturday, every Sunday at 8 p.m. And we go until the conversation is ended, So in the chat, I do have a link if you'd like to join in the chat. Please do. Just hit the link and you can come on and state your opinion. I do not know everything. I don't try to know everything. Not perfect. This is a lot of my opinion, but it's an opinion based on some truths. And from time to time, we do talking. So from time to time, we give receipts. And from time to time, we have open discussions with guests. So, edumacation. My son graduated from 8th grade. Give thanks. He went to this school from pre-K. Him and another person, another young sister, out of the whole class. They've been there since pre-K, so they're lifetime students. My daughter was a lifetime student as well. She graduated 3 years ago, and she graduated salutatorian. And my son, he was attempting to be the valedictorian so that he could outdo her, and ended up being salutatorian as well. So, I don't know if they might want to name the salutatorian award the Roland Salutatorian Award, but yeah, we at least got that on lock, and that's a great accomplishment. you know. So I'm not upset, or I'm really glad that he took it upon himself to strive to be the best. That's You can't ask for much more. You can't ask for much more. The school that they went to is Imhotep Academy here in Atlanta, Georgia. And Imhotep is a beautiful place. It is a beautiful place. It is an African-centered school that has facilities, buildings, classrooms. It has its own little campus, gymnasium, big field to practice sports and for the kids to go out and run and play and get outside time. Um, and outside time is real important. They just found out that outside time helps your kids from being nearsighted. They're finding that a lot of kids are nearsighted because they don't get outside time while they're at school. So MOTEP definitely makes sure that they get some outside time, and they have facilities to give the kids that. Now, why I mention all of that is because most African-centered schools that I've ever been to or known, they didn't have facilities. I've only known one that had its own building that was not dual use. It was only for the school. And a lot of African-centered schools rent space sometimes in Seventh Adventist churches. And so they'll be in the basement and have, some rooms and stuff in that space. But, in looking for a school for our children, we were sure that we wanted an African-centered school. In my mind, it was going to be the hardest going African-centered school there was. So if there was an African-centered school that had the kids learning the most about Africa, if there was an African-centered school that didn't deal with holidays, those are some of the things I was looking for. Something that my kids didn't feel different around other kids immersed in this society. I wanted my kids to feel normal not being immersed in this society. Normal learning things that were productive as opposed to learning things that created little baby zombies that grow into big baby zombies. So that was my goal. My goal was for them to start out at least up until 8th grade in a very African focused environment. That was my goal. My ex-wife at the time, my wife at the time, she's my ex-wife now. She had a really good friend whose son was already at an African-centered school, but it wasn't it wasn't on my radar. It wasn't on my radar because some of the other African-centered schools, they didn't really deal with this place. So her friend told her about it, and we visited the place. And what we found was they had a robotics program. What we found was when you graduate from this school, a lot of times you are 2 grades ahead of the public school system. So going into that, some kids are pushed ahead grade wise, but all the kids excel in their studies at a much higher level and faster rate than the public school system was here in Atlanta. So that those things we learned as we talked to the administration, And as we toured the facilities, um, we went into the pre-K class, and I remember this beautiful mama so well. Oh, I remember this so well. We went into this class, and she was teaching the little babies Rapper's Delight. And as we entered, she said something, and they started singing a hip, a hippie to the hippie, they don't stop to rock. And at that point, I was sold. That's where my children were going. They got a robotic program. They're gonna graduate and be 2 grades ahead of everybody on the average, and they learning a full spectrum of African culture. So um, that's where we ended up sending our children, to Imhotep Academy here in Atlanta, Georgia. And from pre-K into eighth, they both went. My son, as I said, graduated today. And for me, I really believe in teaching my children early what I learned late. And one of the things that I actually learned early was that I was Black, and will always be proud of that. Black and being proud got me a long ways. However, the discovery that I'm not just Black, I'm an African, it brought me home. It brought me home. So, with that said, I wanted my children to experience that they were African, not just to be Black and proud. So, Imhotep gave them that. Imhotep helped instill that. And for me, it was not just, I don't want to call it an experiment, because I was very confident in sending them there and what they would get along with what we would teach them. So I was very confident in that. It's not so much that I wasn't confident in that aspect. Um, but why I call it an experiment is, you don't know how the transition will come once they're in an African centered school, and they spend, eight, what is it, 9 years, 9.5 years actually at this school, in this controlled environment. What'll happen when they get out into the real world? Well, what happened with my daughter was she ended up going to Carver Early College. And it's a public school, but it's geared towards children who are excelling, starting college early. So the first thing that happened with my daughter in her freshman year was she ended the year as the top student in her class. She started playing volleyball and, did some other extracurricular activities, and went into her 10th grade year, ending it as the top person in her class. And during her 10th grade, her summer between 10th grade and 11th grade, she started her freshman year in college. And so right now, as she ends her junior year and finishes her freshman year in college, the experiment is a winning experiment. It's a positive thing. It's everything I could have dreamed of. And my son going into high school is looking forward to outdoing his sister. And one thing that Imhotep instilled in my kids was learning ain't hard. Learning is a part of what you're supposed to do when you grow up. You're supposed to receive this information, and because it helps you grow. And one of the things that Imhotep did really well, first of all, education is teaching a child the what power is, and how to, it's teaching the child, it is teaching the child how to be more powerful than you in life. That's the basics of education. You're passing on how to be even more powerful in life. And Imhotep did that. We got everything we paid for sending our children to Imhotep. And one example is this. My daughter, while she was there, I think she was in 6th grade, and she was in summer school. No, she was in summer camp, and we sent them to a summer camp that was a good summer camp for swimming, because we wanted them to learn to swim very early. So they went to this summer camp every year for about 2-3 years. And the last time we sent them there, my daughter left her journal sitting down somewhere. And I gave her that journal because my daughter, for lack of a better way of putting it, I used to always tell her how kids talk on TV is not how you talk to your parents. That's not, TV is not real, and TV is, because it is an agenda. Children are very disrespectful, way more disrespectful, and do way more talking above their parents than they did when I was growing up on TV and in real life, how it should be. TV was not the reality as my daughter was growing up, and not that we watch TV all the time, but I don't keep them away from certain things, because I want them to learn to be able to function with the noise. It's one thing to say you're off drugs, but if you can't go around people doing that drug, then you're really not off of it. So I didn't want to keep my kids away from certain noise. I want them to be able to activate and be powerful within the noise. So anyway, she left her journal, and one of the counselors found her journal. And why I gave her that journal was I wanted her to write things down before she said them. And the first entry in her journal was on the first page. My dad gave me this journal so I could write my thoughts and not just speak them out. Not act on them, but not just speak them out. That's what she said, and that's what she meant. So anyway, her last entry in the journal, which is where this person started, I believe, I don't know if that's where she started or what. But the last entry in the journal was that she wished these two little white girls was dead. After talking to her about why she wrote that, because she just wrote that, she mentioned that they were bullying other kids and she didn't like it. And they did it all year long. They tried to bully her, but she kind of stepped up, and and she would step up for other kids sometime, but it was just like very annoying, and she didn't like it. So she wrote that in her book, as opposed to saying it or acting on it or anything like that. She just wrote her thought down in her book. So they called us in and told us our child was kicked out, and told us why. And I'm not the type person that's going to go back and forth with silliness and foolishness. I'm actually allergic to stupidity. It makes me break out and sneeze, and I, and cough and all of that. So I just get away from stupidity. It's not my thing. So, I got my baby and we left, got my son and left. We never went back. It wasn't anything. Happened to be a week left in that particular summer session. So I took my daughter to school. Now, because she wasn't at the summer school, the summer camp, I decided to make her read a book and give me a report, so that she just wasn't sitting there playing all day, or idle, or doing something unproductive. I said, I'm gonna give you a book. And what I gave her to read was Sheikh Anta Diop's Civilization or Barbarian. And so she read it that week and gave me a report, and I was satisfied with that. Now, sidebar to this conversation, that week was also very important in her learning, because edumacation is not just going to school. You can't teach a child to be powerful and to be more powerful than you by sending them to school and thinking that's going to do. I don't care what school you send them to. So we had just come back from the Dominican Republic and had gone to, I believe, Jamaica and Mexico. We may not have gone to Mexico yet, but the point I'm making was she saw a lot of kids and grown-ups out in the street trying to sell various items. As soon as your car stopped, people come to the car and try to sell stuff. You know, everybody hustling, everybody trying to make some money. You can, and that's a positive way of looking at it. However, not many people in the United States could see themselves walking up to cars trying to sell things to make a living. So the week that I had her with me, it happened to be the summer in Atlanta that when all the little black boys, not all the little black boys, but a great number of little black boys had started coming in the streets selling drinks, water, Gatorade, little drinks. So as soon as you stop your car, it'd be a bunch of boys in the middle of the street knocking on your window or coming up to you asking you to buy some water. It had never happened before in her whole life. It had never happened anywhere I lived. It wasn't happening. This was not something that was normal. This was a phenomenon happening. And so I pointed it out to her. Look, you know, you go to summer camp. You hanging out with me in AC. These kids are in the hot sun trying to sell water. Why is that? You know, so she was able to witness that, and you know, and I pointed it out so that she'd know. And it was, you know, another lesson of why you want to be powerful, so that you're not forced to be out in the street trying to sell things. That's not power. That's not growth. And if that's where our young African American men are right now, young African American boys are right now, go back to my reoccurring theme. We've been building the wrong Black American, mostly because he doesn't believe he's from Africa. He believes he's American. He believes he's Black American Vespucci. Yeah, Black Amerigo Vespucci. Because that's what that is. That's where America comes from. I much rather be Black African. I'm sorry. I'll take that all day. I'm not Black Italian at all. So I don't want his name as a title. I'll take Mama Africa as a title any day. Because my ancestors, they don't believe in what y'all doing today. Your ancestors don't believe in what y'all doing today over here in America. Trying to ask crackers to be somebody that you'll never be. It's not going to happen. You're going to be regulated to where you are, and eventually, because America's on the downward spiral, you're going to lose what they are giving you to look out for you. The little handouts they're giving you, they're going to take all that away. They're doing it already. They're showing you that they're on the road to fascism. They're showing you that right now. As they squeeze the woman, they squeeze the family, they squeeze the life out of any growth and out of anyone being free. So, you know, like I said, that week with my daughter, she read Civilization of Barbarism and wrote a report. Now, going into her next year in school, some months go by, and I pick her up from school, and she says, "Dad, guess what happened?" I said, "What?" She said, Miss Foster, who is an excellent teacher, one of the best teachers at the school, Miss Foster, It actually is Arian Foster's little sister. The vegetarian Houston. I forget what. I don't. It's funny. I don't even know the name of Houston's football team. But he was the running back, and he was a vegetarian, and he was a pretty cool guy to know about as well. But his little sister was one of my children's teachers, and she's an excellent teacher. An excellent teacher. Highly recommend it because Imhotep is full of excellent teachers. Anyway, my daughter went on to let me know that Miss Foster said something that was the opposite, or wasn't quite correct, because it wasn't matching up with what she read in Sheikh Anta Diop's Civilization of Barbaria. Don't remember what it is, but the point was she raised her hand and said, I read that that's different. That what you're saying is not necessarily accurate. And so Miss Foster said, where did you read that? And she said, in Sheikh Anta Diop's Civilization of Barbaria. And because my children are at an African-centered school, the teacher's response was, wow, I read that. Wow. I need to go back and read it to be sure that I was correct. She didn't say that she knew she was correct. She said, let me go reference that book to make sure I'm teaching the right thing. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me I have a resource I can go check to make sure. That's power for a child to feel that she could even do that. And it would be accepted. To know that when you're talking about something and you have a reference and the reference is accepted is power. Because in a white school, in a public school, most of those teachers don't know anything about Sheikh Anta Diop. And he's one of our greatest African scholars. So I don't care if my daughter knows about Einstein if she doesn't know about Sheikh Anta Diop. You understand? Power in knowing who you are and knowing that you're powerful and knowing that your people are doing powerful things. That's all I wanted my children to be exposed to before they got exposed to this public school thing. Why I sent them to public school is because I want them to be able to be powerful with the noise. Public school is going to be a lot of noise. Once you get into this society, it's a lot of noise, but you got to be able to be centered. You got to have balance. That's power. To be centered and balanced with all the noise going on. To know that who you are and know what your mandate is as an African. And to move forth in that without apology, that's power. And that's what we're handing over to our children. We're not handing over a loser culture. Being Black American, that's a loser culture. They're not educated. And understand, my daughter, she'll be going into her sophomore year in college as she's a senior in high school. But I made her start a business at 10. She don't have to finish school. She don't have to finish college when she graduates high school. She has to graduate high school. But she don't have to go to college unless it's a stepping stone to something else she wants to do. She don't have to go to college to try to get a job and work for someone. Because she understands finance and economics right now. She understands inventory and how to run a business right now. That's power. That's handing them more power than I had. And that's what education is about. Showing them how to be more powerful than you. Every generation you should be making more powerful than you. Even if you're not in the circumstance that Africans are in over here in the diaspora. Even if you're not in the circumstance that Africans are in Africa. If things were perfect and we ran our own land, ran our own countries, we're financially stable as a people, you're still supposed to push them to be more powerful than you. So in the circumstance that we're dealing with now, everybody should be on this page. Everybody should be aware that just sending your kids to college and hoping they graduate to get a job and get out your house is not handing over power to your kids. It's not teaching your kids to be more powerful than you are. That's edumacation, not education. That's edumacation. That's what that is, not education. So yeah, college is great. University is great. But university is a stepping stone for you to be able to be more powerful in whatever your purpose is. But if your purpose has nothing to do with any of those degrees, like the best medical health practitioner I know, he got a law degree. He never went one day to medical school. And he don't even practice law no more. But he took it upon himself to understand what was going on with the human body and what was going on with sickness and health. And he beat it. It's not much he can't heal you from. His success rate is based on people listening to him, not just everybody following him, because the people who don't follow him, it may not be as successful. But if you follow him, his success rate is well above 99%. How about that? And we'll bring him on, because you ain't black if you don't know this brother and know what he's doing here in the world. So on our You Ain't Black series, we're going to bring him on as a guest, because You Ain't Black is not just about knowing powerful people from the past. We got powerful people doing things right now. Matter of fact, I've mentioned him, but I'm going to mention him again because we're talking about passing on power. The only reason he's the best medical practitioner I know is because when he started and learned some things, he started having lectures. Hey, man, I'm coming to Atlanta. I'm going to have a lecture. I got to let people know how they can heal themselves. And pretty much the people were lazy. It's like, well, how you do that? Why don't you just do it and I'll buy it from you? He couldn't believe that shit. He couldn't believe it. But he started Herbal Results. And you can go to herbalresults.net right now. If you have any ailments, go to herbalresults.net. Send him a message. He'll get back with you within a day or two, because he's answering emails daily. And he'll counsel you on what you need to do. And he probably has the product that you can buy on his website. And if I'm not mistaken, he actually has how you can do it yourself on his website, along with the products. You don't have to buy the product. And I know if you go to his YouTube page, he has lectures on all that stuff, where he was trying to tell people how to do it yourself. herbalresults.net, go there. and become more powerful. So anyway, my experiment is a success. And I'm sure that my son will follow in the same footsteps his sister is going and maybe outdo her. He's already talking about, doing extracurricular activity. I think wants to start baseball. So if he's sure about that, then him and I'll start training this summer. And he's going to be the best baseball player he can be. Why? Because I have knowledge to pass on and make him more powerful than I was. Before I entered high school in 8th grade, no child could throw me anything in a baseball game. I could hit anything. And I was really fast. And anytime, it's real funny because in professional baseball, hitting it in the outfield, you might make it to second base. But in, little league baseball, if I hit that in the outfield, that was an infield home run. So I had my day. And the only reason I didn't go on with baseball was because in 9th grade, baseball season came along, but it was the same time as track season. And one of my friends who was he was in 10th grade, he said, you should run track. He said, you're real fast and you be competitive and you should run track. I said, why should I run track? I'm good at baseball. I'm not, like, I'm a freshman and I'm going to be playing on the varsity team. I don't even have to play JV because the coach already told me, because I'm great at baseball. And so this is how he broke it down to me. He said, yeah, in baseball, you might leave school a little early, 2-3 times a week to go play baseball games. And, leaving school was part of the sports thing. And it was, as a young person in high school, that was something you enjoyed doing, leaving school early. He said, but when you're there, you're in a dugout with a whole bunch of guys and, you play your game or whatever. He said, but in track, he said, first of all, anything you do is going to take less than a minute unless you run a long distance. He said, and after you do what you do for that minute, you can talk to girls who are walking around in short shorts and tights. As a 9th grader, that was very intriguing. that sounded like a way better option than going and hanging out with guys in the dugout. And so my brother my father was a Marine and I was at Camp Lejeune at the time. 10 years prior, my father had been stationed at Camp Lejeune, and my brother, he had been a great soccer player for the high school and he held the hurdling records. So I decided to run hurdles so that I could be, shoot for something and break his record. That was my goal. And by the time I finished high school, I was a much better hurdler than my brother had been, because I was given the power and the tools to be better by my coaches and by my will and my work ethic. Because I understand, if you want a hole, get you a really good shovel and start digging. You can get your shovel with some sorry steel or a shovel, get you the best shovel possible and start digging. If you don't have a shovel, start digging with your hands and putting in that work. You'd be surprised someone's going to give you a shovel. That's how moving forward works. That's how putting in the work works. And I was taught that when I was young. I was taught that because my grandparents and my mother and my father wanted to give me more power than they had. And that was one of the lessons they taught me. If you want a hole, go get a shovel and start digging. If you have no tools and you want that hole, you better start digging with your hands. Period. That was education, not edumacation. So when my daughter started in 9th grade, one of the first things she said when she came home was, these kids are stupid. Like, she was real blunt about it. Like, she couldn't understand how they had made it to 9th grade. Because remember, at Imhotep, when you leave, you're 2 grades ahead. I've never had to ask my kids, did you do your homework? I've never had to ask my kids, did you do your homework? It's part of learning. It's automatic for them. Come home, do your homework, go do something else once you finish. Can't make A's and excel and be the best if homework is a problem. My daughter learned that that's what you do. It's nothing to it. My son followed suit. The only time we help them is on major projects where they may have needed some supplies or some help with an idea or something. But other than that, I don't even have to ask. Only time I really inquire about school is maybe when I pick them up, how was your day? And then I want to see grades. Grades don't come but 4 times a year. I don't even ask them about how'd you do on the standardized test and all that. I don't ask them about none of that stuff. Because I know how they did. Because it's nothing to them. They don't look at any of that as a challenge. It's a part of being more powerful. And that's what we're teaching them, that you want to be more powerful. Look at the failures of our greatest Black Americans. Did you hear how I said that? Look at the failures of our greatest Black Americans. First thing somebody want to say, why you counting their money? I ain't counting their money. But if you're not building up Black people in the Black community, or you're not building up Africa in a real way that everybody knows about, not some little donation that nobody know about, then you're not passing on power. And you're definitely not building power. The greatest Black American that you could think of is probably sitting at the feet of some powerful people's table, asking for a seat. I heard something today at the Malcolm X Fest, and we have to do better, Pan-Africans. We have to do better. The sisters, she was on the mic talking to the people, saying that we're not asking for reparations. We demand reparations. That's a lie. Because if you ain't going and taking it, demand is still an ask. They got the power because they took it. We were slaves because we lost a war. We're losing in America because we're still losing that same war. And you think they're going to pay you? You think they're going to give you power? You think you're demanding it with a megaphone? I don't know. How are you demanding it? How are you making them give you reparations? That's not teaching kids power. That's not teaching our youth power. The most powerful Africans I know could give a damn about reparations, could give a damn about anything that this government could give us. The only reason we know the laws is so we can manipulate them for our benefit. For instance, If you own a home and some land and you grow a tree that can drop some fruit, you can get tax subsidies because you own a farm. That's what we want to know. That's the only reason we want to know the laws. So you mean to tell me if I have a 850 credit score, I can go get $150,000 credit card and put it towards building something that can make me way more money, that can build up Africa, and I can pay them that little money back and never see them again? You mean that's why I need good credit? That's the only reason I know powerful Africans want to deal with anything American and want to know their laws, so we can manipulate them for our benefit to be more powerful. We'll have a few more of those gold nuggets. We'll do an entire show on some of those gold nuggets for you, so that you can be more powerful. Because knowledge is power if you use it correctly. Because knowing something don't mean you're going to do something. Knowing something don't mean that you're going to do something. You actually have to put action into it. It's like getting up every morning and praying and then going back to bed. Ooh, I pray, I hope my bills paid. Ooh, I pray da-da-da-dee and da-da-da-dee, and no action. Even in the Bible, it says you take one step, I'll take two. But you got to take that step. And unless you're educating the kids to be more powerful, they'll never take that step. They'll just follow your non-stepping self. They'll follow the non-steppers ahead of them that we call great. Go to college. Right now, and this is a perfect example. Right now, this evening, Morehouse College is graduating their 2024 class. Morehouse is propped up to be one of the leading, if not the leading, university for a black male to go to. Now, why is that important? Why am I bringing this graduation up? Well, the leader of this nation is going to be their commencement speaker. In a perfect world, it would be an admirable thing. It'll be a great thing to have the leader of the nation coming to your school to do the commencement speech. However, let's back up some. In order for him to become the president, he needed black people to vote for him at a time where a lot of black people weren't checking for him. But in this country, because you usually have a choice of terrible and the fucking worst, yeah, the choices for leaders in this country is usually terrible and fucking even worse. So black people had a choice to do one of those things or not be involved. So they pulled out some old supposed black person of influence, and he said, y'all need to vote for Biden. And this dude, and his color matters, this white dude literally said after that, you're not black if you don't vote for me. the most insensitive, racist thing a person could say to a people, he actually said it. And in droves, black people went and voted for him. That's how he became the leader of this nation. Now, as the leader, when he's sold Israel pretty much all the weaponry and bombs they've used to decimate a people, the Palestinians, he can feel that he's not looking so pretty to the people. And he knows that black people got him over. So what does he do? Let me go hit a black school, one of the top black schools, so people can see that I'm there and I love black people. Let me go talk to the students. He's going to one of the top historically black colleges in the United States. Historically black simply means that mostly black people went there. We don't own any schools of higher learning. The few that are private are the poorest. And they're not African centered. They teach the same thing as the public the public universities that black people go to. They teach the same foolishness. They push out the same loser black American. So I reached out to one of my brothers who was a Morehouse graduate, highly thought of. I told him, I don't know if you agree or not, but you need to reach out to as many of them young brothers or whoever you need to reach out to reach those young brothers that's going to be coming from your alma mater. And you let them know, don't show up. Do not show up. They cannot be there when he's talking. If they do show up, soon as he's introduced, they should start walking out. They did their 4 years. They're getting their degree. You don't got to be there. And I understand walking across that stage. I understand all of that stuff. I understand the symbolism of that. Of all the classes, this class started out with the coronavirus, Dorona. Where you're going to school off Zoom and all these things, and everybody wasn't ready to do that. And so now you got to catch up in certain ways. So to be honest, that would be a perfect ending for this particular class, to walk out on this terrible leader. He wasn't the even fucking worst choice in this particular one. He was a terrible choice. And so terrible normally will win in most cases over even fucking worse. So he won. And he's trying to win again. Ironically, against the same even fucking worse person. Unfortunately, I'm sure that all those kids are there listening to him slur his speech, watching him barely be able to walk or stand up, being indoctrinated as pawns. Yeah. If you sit there and listen to him, you're starting your adult life out as a pawn. Not as a powerful leader who's going to innovate Africa and the world. You're starting it out as a sheeple. And that's sad. That's sad. If that's the best school we got for young men to go to, if it's touted as the best historically black college for young men to go to, that's sad as fuck. It's very unfortunate. Which is why I took the time out this evening to talk about education. I entitled it Edumacation because that's what's going on in most of these places, especially here in the West. The top student in American universities today is the African, coming from Africa. Why? Because as a child, their culture raised them to be powerful. One of the issues becomes that, unfortunately, the culture doesn't know enough about the negative aspects of the West to defend against it once they're here. Like they can get their lesson, but some of the other stuff, they can't, they don't know how to defend against it. So, some go back to Africa and build, many don't. However, because of their culture, pretty much all of them are still doing better than the Black American. They own businesses, they're doctors, they're doing things because they understand this. As slaves, we had everything done for us. So we lost trading. We lost the basic understanding of economics. So we don't understand finance. We don't understand world economics. We don't understand that. And I touched upon this when I did the show Socialism versus Social Capitalism. We don't understand that the most social country in the world is Cuba. And they're doing well with their socialist government and socialist way of living. However, because they have embargoes and I forget the other word, but because the Western countries, especially America, will not trade with them, they are doing well with what they have, but they can't really grow in the way they want to grow. They can't really build up their infrastructure in the way that they want to, modernize their country in the way that they want to, because they're not able to trade their natural resources with the world, because the world's like, we're not going to do that. They're boxing them out of the economy because they know if they're successful as a socialist country, it'll show that you don't have to live in this I don't want to say capitalistic system, in the Western view of capitalism. You don't have to live in that, because right now we think that that's what you got to do and that's the only way to live. No, you can have a socialist society. However, for your society to grow, you have to deal with capitalism. You have to deal with the financial system and the economics as it is in the world. And trading has evolved to being able to sell your resources. Whatever natural resources you have that can benefit the world, whatever natural goods, you can manufacture within your country that could benefit the world. That's how you're able to build your country up. So it's one thing to be a good country, be morally, correct, and it's another thing to actually be able to build up from with that foundation. You need capitalism to build up with that foundation. So the most social place on earth is losing because they don't have capitalism, because they're not able to be involved in world capitalism, in world economics. And we don't understand that because everything has been given to us. And so we want to demand even more to be given to us. Demand reparations. Yeah, it's crazy. We don't understand how to use what we got and build upon that in a way to even enter the world market. That's why we can't build up our communities. That's why we don't have schools that we actually own and are running as the norm. Which is why I found one of those schools to send my children to, because they wasn't going to do the norm. Before they do the norm, they will be homeschooled. I have a brother who, his child when it's season for school, they move back to Africa. They live here in the United States part of the year, and then the other part of the year they live in Africa. Why does he prefer that? The first thing he says, and it's great education. And we know it's great education because the top university students in America are coming from the continent. But why he does that is because it was impressive for him to see every day his child gets dropped off, the teacher, his teacher, not an aide, not just anybody from the school, not it's not y'all two people gonna do it today and y'all other two people gonna do it tomorrow and y'all gonna do it. No, it's not that at all. His teacher receives his child and gives his child a hug and brings him into the class. And his teacher does that for all her students. And all the teachers do that for all their students. So immediately the student knows that they care about them. And the student wants to learn from them, wants to listen to them, does what they say. Over here, you don't get that. Over here, they complaining that these kids they can't handle. That's because they know you don't care about them. That's because they know you ain't teaching nothing. How do I know this to be a fact? I worked in the school system. I saw it. The teachers that win, they show they care about their children. And the children receive that. The teachers that are sorry, the children know and receive that as well. And they act accordingly. Second day I was at the school, little black kids told me about a teacher that was prejudiced. White teacher that was prejudiced, a guy. I told him, no, you don't know enough to know that. Within the week, I knew enough to know that they was on to something. And that I had to make sure I'm around when necessary. And that he needed to look in a man's face sometimes before he makes certain decisions. Before he says certain things. He need to know it's a man around who ain't having that. Take that somewhere else. But these little black kids not gonna be exposed to that. They here to learn. That's passing on power. They know how to act. They're learning how to. The young black men are learning how to. Young black boys are seeing a man act. And so they're learning how to act. How I know that? One brother, one young brother, his name was Willie. Willie would get into stuff all the time, and he'd be mad because he feel like I'm taking the other people's side. When all I would do is pull him away and talk to him. Willie, you don't want none of that. You don't want to go where that's going to take you. Calm down, and we'll go back to class. That was the average conversation. Willie, you don't want none of that. You don't know, you don't want to go down that road. It's not going to end well. Let's just relax for a little while and then we'll go back to class. When I left, some of the teachers had their children, because I wasn't coming back after that year, write me a letter or draw me a picture. Willie drew a black dude with some dreads and said strong black man with the caption strong black man. I got that picture right now today. That was him saying thank you. I got it. I know what it looked like. And that's our job as adults, as African adults. That's our job. My grandmother taught me that you are your brother's keeper. Not that that's none of my business. If we're failing collectively, that's some of my motherfucking business. To make sure that the next generation don't. That they make the turn. By me making the turn today. That shows them to make the turn. That's passing on power. That's what education is. Creating a more powerful person than you. I don't know it all. If you have an opinion, you can look at the chat. You can click the link, come on. If you got an opinion, if you agree, disagree, we can discuss it. Because I don't know it all. I know my experience. I know I'm winning with my kids so far. I know that experiment, if you want to call it that, successful. It's successful. My kids are winning right now. But that's because we purposely put together a plan to make them more powerful than us. We didn't bring teachers in their lives who were going to not bring value to their education, who are not going to add to their lives. We didn't put them in an environment that was anti what we was teaching. It's already bad when your child leaves outside the door. It's noise from every direction. So we put them in a place with a lot less noise and a lot more focus on what power is and how to be a more powerful person. It's so funny at Imhotep, every day, they start the day not with the pledge, but with a poem, The Ultimate Student. And it's funny because that poem is so long. It is so long. I can't repeat the poem. And I see a lot of times as they're repeating it, they're like, oh, blah, 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 because they do it every day. But it's so fucking impressive because every day they're pushing inside their mind that they're the ultimate student, that they're great, that they're powerful. Every day they're reciting this out loud together. And students coming out of 8th grade ready to go to 10th and 11th grade in public school, ready to do that type of work. My daughter, by the time her 9th grade year was ending, she was getting paid. I told her she a hustler. She understand about money. She was getting paid to do seniors and 11th grade kids' work. She was writing their papers and still was ahead of the 9th grade, the top student in 9th grade. That's giving your child power. That's putting them in a position to be more powerful than you. That's passing power on. Because she knows to do these things because those are part of all the lessons that we gave her, part of the lessons that she learned from Imhotep. She understands that being this great Black American means nothing. Being a great African means something. She understands that. She understands that the world won't be better if we don't make Africa better. There's no example of overcoming this terrible Western capitalistic society, this individualism that they teach. Only way to defeat that is to build a better society. And you're not going to build a better society in an already terrible society that's fighting against it. You can only build a great society, very much like Cuba did, with the people trying to be better society. And there are other places on the earth that are doing things besides Cuba. There are definitely spots in Africa that's up and coming and building that society, building a better world. And my children have to be a part of that. Your children should want to be too. And you should want them to be. But it only comes from real education, not from what we think of as education. The best historically Black school for men right now is graduating pawns. They allowed the worst person on earth to be the commencement speaker. So, tell you something about how they educate people here in America. Steve Jobs, I believe it was Harvard, was called to be the commencement speaker. And I'm going to paraphrase what he said. He said basically, seniors who are graduating, it's too late for y'all. But freshmen and sophomores, you need to leave now. He said the 10 richest men in the world, he said 9 of the 10 richest men in the world have no high school education, no college education. He's saying number 3 on that list works for number 1. Number 3 went to school, but he worked for number 1. Let me repeat that. The 10 richest men in the world don't have college education at the time when he was speaking. And many of them didn't have a high school education. I'm sorry, nine of the 10 richest people. And the third person on that list worked for number 1. He did go to school, but he works for number 1 who didn't go to school. Obviously, they didn't let Steve Jobs finish his commencement speech. Now, conversely, think about Morehouse tonight. We know Biden, BYE-DEN, Biden is lying. He's lying through his teeth. And Morehouse isn't going to stop his speech. Morehouse isn't going to stop his speech. And believe me, I'm not about symbolic gesture, but you should walk out. You should not be there. Don't start your adult life leaving college as a pawn. Don't do that. As always, we have the Cash App running. Please, if you find some value in what we're saying, if you want to help us continue with what we're doing with our show, we got $, the original Rastafunk. Cash App, $, the original Rastafunk. If you have anything you want to say, you can hit the link in the chat. You can come on. We can talk. Maybe it's something I missed. Maybe it's some secret Black American plan that I don't know about that's going to come from behind and win at the last minute. Fourth quarter, 10 seconds left. We on our own 20. We got one more play. We got a Hail Mary that's going to win the game for us. Because right now, we're fucking in the end zone, in our own end zone, about to get a safety. We about to get a safety. We already down and about to get a safety. We're going to end the game with a safety and lose, even by even more points. That's all I see. I don't know where that Hail Mary coming from with the team that is playing right now. Terrible coaching. I see talent on the team, but they're not using it. They're using it to lose. Can you imagine? The most talented team on earth doing everything to lose. They thought when you back up to throw the ball, you just throw it on the ground or you throw it to the other team. They think that's right. They think when you're on defense and he's running and you can tackle him, that you let him go. Why would you don't touch him at all? They think you open up the whole form on defense. That's the Black American. He's doing everything to lose the game without realizing it. And when people tell him you're doing everything to lose the game, they're like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. The people that my opponents told me I'm doing good. My opponents told me this is how you win. So you don't know what you're talking about. That's the Black American we know. That's the life you live in the diaspora around Black Americans. Literally. Why? Lack of education and a lot of edumacation. Once again, education is passing on power so that your children are more powerful than you are. You're teaching them to be more powerful than you were, than you are. You're not 90 holding on to power and all the youth wishing you would just die so that they can try to get some of your power without ever knowing what power is, without ever being taught. But they know I'm gonna sit in that chair as soon as he die. That's what the Black Americans is living. And they're literally doing that because their opponents is defining what winning is. The people you lost in the war is defining what winning is to you. And they never say getting our foot off your neck is winning. They never say that. They never allude to that. They never teach that. They teach, put your hands right here on my foot and push down with me. That's what they teach. Put your hands on my foot and push down on your neck with me in unison. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, push. And you winning. You think you're winning. Think Puffy was winning. I'm Rastafunk. This is Rastafunk's Nternaize. We're here every Friday, every Saturday, every Sunday, 8 p.m. until the conversation ends. Don't forget, Cash App, $, the original Rastafunk, capital T, capital O, capital R, the $, the original Rastafunk. Whenever we're on, if there's something you want to say, please hit the link in the chat. I'd love to have you. I'd love to open up the discussion because I don't know it all. But I appreciate y'all for sticking with us every day, every weekend. Appreciate the people who are on now. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow, 8 p.m. with a new subject for you to internalize. We appreciate you. We love you. And we out for the evening. But definitely tune in tomorrow night, 8 p.m. We'll have another Internalize. Peace, soul.